I wasn't moving your mind.
Cole, you by far have the most setup of any interview I've done. But it is such a pleasure to see you, and I'm more than happy to do this. I've never kind of set up quite this way before.
I'm usually not doing interviews, so this is great. this is unique in its own
people
right.
will see. We're gonna do a few things here, and we're gonna be technically adept as usual. So good to see you.
It's great to see you.
So good to see you. Thank you for coming. I feel like this is our 2024 interview. I could tell you that I feel like our first interview was truly COVID, right?
Yes, it was 2020.
2020.
Yeah, right when it broke out, because that was when my EP came out. So.
Yeah, and maybe even before you went to college.
No, I was still in college.
It
was my first year of college. Yeah,
first year of college.
Undergrad. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I love being in the space. This is a great place.
Yeah, it's a great place. I appreciate that. Let's catch up. First, today is November 4th, and I think it's appropriate that we give a little respect to someone who passed today, Quincy Jones. One of the great producers of our time.
Absolutely.
I only know that he worked with, the headline, Sinatra, and only the biggest album ever.
Thriller. Yeah.
Thriller. You may know more.
Yeah. Well, Quincy Jones. There's so much to say, so much that has already been said, but I'm sure it's so much to uncover. I think what's so unique, so completely unique to him is that he lived a musical life that was completely unparalleled to most, in that he existed and created such amazing art in so many different musical generations where people are lucky enough to have success or fame or really make an impact in kind of one decade or whatever. Quincy had like 9 of them. It felt like, it was 9 of them.
It was
91.
Yeah.
But many decades of just like unparalleled excellence, and someone who was so adept in different fields. He had a classical background. He studied with Nadia Boulanger, who was a 20th century French composer and mostly a teacher for most of her life. Even though she wrote amazing music, she taught basically everyone, and many American composers and people from all over the world. And he worked with her as a very young person. And then that's the same guy who produced Thriller by Michael Jackson. It's just crazy. Because obviously he mentioned Sinatra. He was a band leader and an incredible arranger and writer of his own right. And then his uniqueness and his unique sound and that able to propel him into the pop world is amazing. And the thing about him is that he had the distinct ear for things that most people didn't necessarily have for success, and his instincts were pretty much always spot on. And his way of fusing classical jazz, pop, funk, soul,
unparalleled.
Shout out to him for really recognizing the talent that was Rod Temperton, who was Michael Jackson's songwriter on the song Thriller and Off the Wall, Rock With You, who ended up, and then Rod and Quincy collaborated on stuff that was extreme. The reason why I bring it up specifically is it's stuff that's very formative to my musical development. Him in with his work in the early 80s with not only just Rod Temperton writing songs for Michael Jackson, but also for George Benson on Give You the Night, which is an incredible album. And he was the man. There's more to say, but that's, I love him.
Just the two things that I think are sort of applicable to you. What's amazing about him is that as an instrumentalist, I believe as a trumpet player, that he has the foresight and the wherewithal and the talent to go into arranging, and then ends up bringing people together. And a good example of that is, I think, the biggest selling single of all time, which is "We Are the World." That he probably goes way beyond music. He seemed to have a very kind of mellow temperament. I don't know the gentleman, but that's kind of what I got through him. All this craziness of the 70s and 80s, and there was a lot of craziness happening in terms of like the biggest selling album ever, and he just brings it together. It's just very calmly arranges. That's such a talent onto itself.
Well, there's the famous story, if you've seen the We Are the World documentary, which is
I saw it. It was unbelievable.
It's really good. It's really good. And there's the great moment where, because you're getting all these stars in the same room together, which is also a distinguished experience into itself, where he hangs up the sign above the studio that says "Check your ego at the door."
Enough said.
That was him.
Enough said. Yeah, that's
a very powerful person, very powerful, but also, no BS with him.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
if you couldn't, yeah.
So it's funny when I do interviews here, and because I love music so much, I feel like one of the last times I did a big series of interviews, Edward Van Halen, who was one of my, as you know, heroes and examples in every way in terms of guitar playing, and now, you know, we're on the eve of this famous producer passing. So rest in peace, anyway, to Q.
To Q.
Yeah. So let's talk about your life this last year.
Sure.
In a way that would be less than 60 seconds. No, I'm kidding.
No,
take as much time as you like. You know, what's driving you these days?
So I'm currently, I'm getting my master's degree at Stony Brook University in composition because I'm also a classical composer. And I guess some of that might inadvertently have to do with other things we're talking about today, like the song but that I released this year. But yeah, that's a huge part of my life now because it's very busy, and I'm a TA and I teach musicianship there, and yeah, that's kind of been the big thing, and it's trying to find the time and juggling between classical projects, but also still being in the studio and working with bands. In the summer, I played quite a lot actually out, and now I'm not playing out as much, but in December 14th is our holiday show, my family's holiday show, and that is a big undertaking, as it often is. So that's
People
kind
look forward to that.
That's musically what's going on. You said 60 seconds or less. I mean, if you want to hear my whole life this year, I don't know about 60 seconds.
No. I was completely kidding. Take as much time as you'd like. But, you know, you say you're not playing as much, but I think there's 3 times you're playing in the next 10 days or the next 10 or 15 days.
Oh, yes. I guess I meant to say, yeah, as like a solo artist, I'm not playing as much. Okay. But I am playing with the New York Roots Music Association. I don't know when this will be out, but that'll be Saturday, November 9th. We're playing a show that's the tribute to the music of Stephen Stills, who was actually very inspiring to me when I was young. I love his music, and his solo music is great, in addition to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You
know, a show that everybody looks forward to. I'm always there. I played with you one time, and that was such a real great honor. But the Port Jefferson resident show and more at the church here.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's coming up.
It is.
To me, it marks the holiday season in every way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I love it.
Christmas is my favorite holiday ever. And it's just a beautiful time of the year. And, you know, it's a funny thing because it's so, I tell this to everyone. I'm like, isn't it amazing? It's one of the best times of the year, but it's also the most stress to try to enjoy it because you're so busy. And there's this constant hecticness. And, of course, putting on a show is another business. But at the same time, it makes it so much more special when people unplug from their lives for just 2 seconds and just come into the concert and just be a part of the community, be a part of the music, and feel the Christmas vibe, you know,
and the
holiday
stories.
vibe. Yeah, and the stories or whatever it is, you know. I mean, it's a thing I have to remind myself as someone who has a lot of say putting it together. But it's a great show. December 14th, Saturday at 7:30, we play our own original Christmas music, mostly written by my dad. We'll have a new Christmas song out this year called Home Again, which is a really wonderful song. But we also do covers of Christmas stuff, some more obscure covers, but also some fan favorite Christmas covers as well. And then just other songs. You know, it's just a variety of things going on. But there's always a special twist or two. Every year we make it different. It's a different show every year. So come out. If you've seen it already, come out. If you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat.
What's the name of the church?
It's the Methodist Church in Port Jefferson.
That's the beautiful white church. As you're coming down the hill, it's on your right-hand side.
It's on the corner of Spring Street and Main Street. It's across the street from Theater 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's a show everybody really should make. It's very special. I look forward to seeing you there.
I look forward to having you there.
So you played at Port Palooza, I think, for the 4th time because it was the 4th annual, and we always appreciate that. And, you know, of course, you knocked it out of the park, and everybody loved it as usual. There was a new song that I think you had just recorded at that time, but you told me, Kevin, I wouldn't dare try that live. And when I heard the song, to me, and I hate to categorize something when I'm sitting in front of the artist, so I'm not going to do that, but I am going to tell you that it's a really big departure from what I'm used to hearing from you. And the biggest thing I can say is, and I love this, it's rhythmic in nature more so than what I'm used to you melodically. So that's the one thing I'll say. And then I would love to hear your inspiration and the title of the song, of course, is
I Wasn't Moving Your Mind.
Yeah, that's
My latest
the one.
song. Thank you.
That's the one.
I mean, yeah, I was saying to you, I dare not play live. I mean, it would be amazing. Well, it would be interesting to do it live in a more traditional rock band setting. I don't know if it'll carry, but the reason, if you haven't heard the song, and what Kevin's alluding to, is the fact that the instrumentation is very full of literally bells and whistles going throughout the whole thing, and it's orchestral in nature in that it's a lot of string parts, but marimba, xylophone, so mallet percussion, and 3 different piano tracks. It's not one piano track like my other stuff is just, piano, bass, drums.
Right.
So that instrumentation wise is the departure. So you would need a lot of manpower on stage to get those sounds. It would be wonderful to do, and like maybe honestly in a music conservatory situation would probably be very fun. But yeah, you asked about the inspiration behind it, or
yeah, I mean, so let's go back to, like, you have a lot of things going on in your life. You have this whole sort of the TA thing, and then you have probably what you have to do every day, and I don't mean have to, I mean it's part of your being is to play music. So I'm wondering, just when you sit down, do you practice, you make yourself better, I know that, but what I want to know is, what everybody wants to know is, you're sitting down and then what hits and why does it hit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, and there's always there's a very, I guess I'll talk about that specifically for this song, because that actually is a very different story depending on the song, I feel like. But as a musician, I play piano, and as a musician and a songwriter, I naturally improvise at the piano. I'm playing stuff that just because, why not? And that's fun. It's just like thinking out loud, but playing, And so a lot of a vast majority of the music I've written, whether it's classical or pop, has been me just goofing around on the piano and just finding stuff. And it's so funny because this song, its origin story is hazy. Like, it's hard to remember because it was a while ago, actually, when the idea kind of came up. But what I do remember, though, was that when the idea for the song came, I knew it was different. You were saying, oh, wow, it's such a departure for you. Like, I knew that from the conception. It wasn't like I conceived it to be something that sounded more like me, and then we did a 180.
That's right.
So it was kind of in the DNA of the material, and it's one chord progression that goes throughout the entire song with variations. And I think one day I was just, I guess I'll just use this thing right here. I was probably... I think I was playing around with the riff, Which, speaking of Quincy Jones, I realized this sounds like "Yeah, I'll Be There" a little bit. James Ingram. Which, sorry to rip off that crew right there. I don't think it's that much of a rip off, but anyway. It's topical, the Quincy Jones. But I played this riff. I came up with that. And then I think I was just kind of playing around with these chords. And then realizing, I could change the bass note. This bass line. And then oscillating back and forth between when it's just C in the bass versus F in the bass. And I thought, that's a cool idea, but it wasn't like wow, this is amazing, I need to do something with this necessarily at that moment. But it did stick with me, which is something like I come up with many ideas very frequently. And so the ones that survive to me are the ones that really, not to say that the other ones that I forget about are not good, but it's just that I will take it as like I should examine this if I can remember it. Like, really remember it, like, because I'll record all my ideas, but this like hook stuck with me. So I was like, well, that might be something. And what was interesting is, as I started playing it, I realized, well, this could actually sustain itself to me over a long period of time, because it was the kind of thing where a lot of times I'll write something and I'm like, okay, well, then what's the chorus going to be?
Exactly.
What's the verse going to be?
What's the B part? Yeah, exactly.
And so this was a very weird example of, well, you know what, I think
you're not going anywhere but there.
I'm not going anywhere but there.
But you're building it, and we'll play it.
So,
we'll definitely play it. But
what happened?
That's what was different to me.
I'll speak about the instrument, because that's the I guess the interesting part of the inspiration behind it. Is I did after a while hear, well, you know what? I hear this on a marimba, which is like if you don't know what a marimba is, it's like a lower xylophone, and I heard it in percussion more than piano. There is piano obviously on the song, but I was like, this really needs some percussion. And I started all of a sudden, as I was playing it, I started hearing, which is one of the marimba lines and one of the xylophone lines that happened. And then I was like thinking, oh, well, that's cool. There could be this melody that could happen throughout the song, but then having these other rhythmic patterns play throughout. And then I started coming up with a couple. Eventually I came up with, this one's harder to hear in the recording, but there's a very high, and I started hearing those fast 16th note kind of thing. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And I was like, well, that's something that I would, if I was to record, how would I even record that? I was like, because then I'm going to have find percussion players. Like, it just seemed like so it just was in the back of my head. I didn't like think of anything with it. And then what happened was I was in Potsdam, where I went to undergrad, and it was this weird kind of cosmic-ish thing, because it was a night where I had nothing to do. What a concept, right? I never have those anymore. But I had nothing going on for some particular reason, and I was like, you know what? I would love to play out the ideas in my head with this percussion thing. At that point, I already had the title, which I could talk about later, but I wasn't moving your mind. I was like, oh, that moving your mind idea that I keep humming in my head, and I hear that there's these percussion things, and there's potential for the xylophone thing or whatever. And so it's like the only way I could really like see this through is if I demoed it myself in Pro Tools, multi-tracking it.
Only way for this.
So what I should probably pause and say, what happened with a lot of the other songs is that I would make a piano demo of just me playing the piano and just recording it on my iPhone, and that would be good enough, because in my head I've gotten to a point where I can now hear what the drum part's going to be, the bass part, I know vaguely, okay, this is what's going to happen, and then I dictate that to the musicians. We go in the studio. But this, I was like, well, because there's so many of these ideas, let me just play around. So I laid down the piano track, and I laid down a couple piano tracks, then the marimbas and xylophones. So I demoed I Wasn't Moving Your Mind. What was in the demo is what you hear on the record, which is bizarre to me, because I did not expect that. I got very lucky. Because I was like, wait, I was expecting me to demo and be like, oh, well, then I got to change that, and that's... But the arc just made sense in my head of like, okay, well, what if I have these strings come in? What if I do this? And then later, and then I just had fun with it, because it's so much fun to multi-track yourself.
Yes, it is.
And just like,
what was the total number of tracks you ended up with?
And it's funny, I never use it as a source of pride for how many tracks. It always feels like a kind of an odd thing, but at the same time, you're right though. It is interesting, and there's 3 piano tracks. I'm looking at the session right now. There's a xylophone track. There's 2 different string tracks. A marimba track, and that's it for instruments. For vocals, there's 2 vocals that go throughout the entire song, and then there's like another third vocal that comes in briefly, and then at the end there's like 5 more backing vocal tracks that happen where there's that offbeat backing vocal thing. So that's kind of how the song, and then what happened after that was we recorded the piano. We decided, okay, this is cool, we should do something with this, and it's an orchestral pop thing, and I want to do more orchestral pop things to offshoot the more traditional other stuff I do. So we went into the studio, and I recorded the 3 piano tracks on a real piano, not on a keyboard. After that, I was working with my producer Kevin Bentz, anticipating that we would have had to replay all the sounds, because the sounds on my demo were close to what you hear on the record, but not as good as the MIDI sounds that Kevin Bentz got. So then Kevin Bentz was like, well, I'm just going to take these tracks and just put new sounds into them. So
because they were MIDI.
Yeah, so but you could do that with MIDI. It's super easy. So that's how that happened. So.
Amazing.
And then re-recorded the vocal.
Cole, if you can, play the song as published. Yeah. And then we'll re-break it down a little bit.
Sure. Here we go.
I gotta ask you about this.
I wasn't moving your mind. I wasn't grooving your mind. I didn't notice you were looking behind. I wasn't moving, I wasn't soothing your mind.
Awesome. come back to this.
Yeah.
So people have the flavor of the song for sure,
Yeah.
and that syncopation is just so catchy to me. That first opening syncopation.
Oh, in the beginning?
Yeah.
So it's one. I'll actually solo this on the session.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the first piano part is just in the beginning and is the predominant rhythm of the song being the quarter note pulse of dut, 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 dut. So that's what the piano starts with. Let me turn it up here. Right. Plain as can be. And so I knew I wanted to start the song with that, but that's a C minor chord, and then it's interspersed a B flat major in first inversion, so that sounds like this. And it involves your hands having to cross on the piano, which I like to do. It's fun. So anyway, I kind of came up with this idea. So it's a polyrhythm. And that's but the polyrhythm came out not because I played it at the same time. I can play it at the same time, but I recorded the plain quarter note version, and then in the second piano part, that's where you hear the syncopation, which is this. Which sounds weird on its own.
On its own, it almost sounds like a mistake.
Yeah.
On its own, but then it's brilliant.
There's the extra. There's also an extra.
I get it.
There's also an extra because that's what you can do. That kind of thing. That's the kind of part you come up with a lot easier when you're multi-tracking.
Yeah.
You technically could play, but like. That wasn't me doing that was me.
Yeah.
I had this quarter note thing, and then I was like, well, now let me play off of the quarter note thing.
Sure.
And in general, that was kind of the process for, honestly, a lot of these tracks coming about. How do I play off of the thing I played?
So the actual lyric is "I wasn't moving your mind."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't believe there's another lyric in the song.
Oh, there are other, but there are variations of.
There's variations.
As in.
Oh yes.
I wasn't grooving your mind, soothing your mind, which is ridiculous. You know, that lyric was an improvised lyric when I did the demo, but then I liked it, so I kept most of it. I changed a little bit, but yeah. I guess I should explain the concept of what is.
If you want to, it could be deeply personal. I don't know.
It's really not.
We're going to reveal it right here.
No, it's not deeply personal, so I feel fine saying it. But the concept of the thing came about. I mean, well, it is personal, but it's not like, I wouldn't say like a deep, dark secret.
Is it about a stubborn person?
Yeah, maybe. You know, it's not about anything specific, but what it is about is that feeling that I've felt, and I know people who have felt time and time and time again, about trying to move someone that maybe you really care about them, or maybe it's a persuasion in a more, you know, like work-oriented sense. But the idea of trying to move and impact someone
that's immovable.
That's immovable, or that you are not able to move them. You're
Sure.
not able to affect them. And the idea, once I came up with that phrase, because I've felt that way so many times in my life, just trying to, usually more in a personal sense, not in like I have to be right, or just like I just want to make you feel happy, or I want to whatever. And so the idea I came up with the song was, once I came up with the lyric, I was like, well, I'll have this thing build up like crazy, because the vision I had was of someone performing this in a sense where they're trying to impress someone. And they keep adding these bells and whistles and these variations and these crazy rhythms. It should be like, how about now? How about now? is this
That's brilliant.
Which is, it's such a silly thing, but it was fun and straightforward and easier to write than like a really complicated narrative on like another song. Or whatever,
Right.
But, yeah.
So again, to me, it's a depart. We have some audience here, so we can talk to them. It's such a departure from what we've ever heard from you. Am I okay saying that? I mean, that's a good thing.
I guess it is, and it is.
I always just like you did the great series with Burt Bacharach, and you've done a few series, and you're always. It's not. I'm not trying to even make a statement. I'm just saying it was so refreshing to hear something that was just, that's Cole? What? Whoa. And again, I don't want to make this comparison, but I grew up listening to Yes a lot. I felt that the John Anderson was just really hit me very hard. That vocal feeling as it builds.
Thank you.
You know, which is great. So, you know, we'll play the whole song at the end of this interview. Is there anything you wanted to show us in the multi-track that would be interesting that people wouldn't know necessarily when they listen to the whole track?
That's a great question, because I'm sure there is. I'd have to think. I think, well, yeah, I guess I should probably pay attention. attention to kind of what gets. So I'll probably maybe just do a little breakdown of what the instruments are. I don't have the vocals, sadly, so I can't break down the backing vocals, but there are plenty of interesting things going on in the backing vocal.
Are the only ones singing, or are there other people singing?
It's me. It's me.
All you.
The vocal.
Okay.
This is I played everything, but Kevin Benz produced it. Yeah.
So that's.
Well, I could play it because I play keyboard. It wasn't like I had to play like guitar because I don't play guitar. But but anyway, so there's 3 piano tracks that each kind of play different things. There's kind of the main piano track, which is this. The chords. A second piano track comes in at this part with so this is more chords. That's the second piano track. And then there's another this is like a melody thing that happens in a second. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a thing. Although that's a little bit different on the. Yeah, there you go. It's a little different on the original. But anyway, so that's the piano.
It just seems like a very fun track for you to work on.
Yeah, it was very fun to work on. Some people say it's fun to listen to, which makes me laugh because I'm like, I feel like the song is so angry. I mean, I'm angry on it, but that's it. It's very fun to work on. Emotionally, I wouldn't call it fun, but I don't get offended if people have a good time listening to it.
No, I think it's really interesting to listen to. I wouldn't call it a fun song, even though it bounces. That's what I love about it.
It's bouncy and intense, right? It
I actually think it's intense and maybe even a bit dark. That's what I love about it.
It is.
Good.
Yeah.
So I got you.
But there's this is the marimba thing. That's really what I heard is the kind of the backbone of the thing. And then you have, I'll show you. This is what the xylophone thing I was talking about. This is that fast thing. This is what that sounds like. It sounds terrible on its own. And again, this is the demo version.
Right.
But that's these little rhythmic pockets. And then really having choosing what things to accent. So there's a string thing here. This is really where the intensity of it kicks up a notch once these strings come in. With the xylophone here. And that's really where you get into kind of the insanity zone. But that's some things to kind of think about, yeah.
So let's jump out of this for a second. When you're thinking your music through, do you ever have visions of having your music be part of a sound? This is also leading me to this conversation and thought, to have it be part of a soundtrack of just like some incredible movie, and not the Joker 2. I hope you don't see that. But do you ever think in those terms? Because movies need good music, and it really sometimes makes the movie.
I never think in those terms.
You never do. Okay.
Zero desire.
But I would think in those terms.
Most people do. So that's another conversation for the soundtrack. So classical music, the classical music I write, and that a lot of people will write. A lot of people, whether people who are really knowledgeable about music or not, and either way, they will be like, oh, well, that sounds like film music, and that sounds like it could be a soundtrack, and there's nothing wrong with that. And the reason why people even think about that with classical is because that's the most common way most people nowadays, like general public, comes in contact with that kind of music.
That's true.
And so it's just an interesting cultural perception. I have no desire to write film soundtracks as of this interview, but really at all. Now, but this song and like my pop stuff, like, if this was like picked up for a movie, that would be amazing. I mean, like, of course that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, like, do I think about like, oh, this sounds, well, the song is the movie, the song that you write. It is. It's what goes into writing something and creating an atmosphere and a story is just like any person going into writing a movie. I know what you're saying, like, oh, it could be, so maybe to answer your question, then yes.
So let me go the other way.
Yeah.
Let me go the other way, right? So you write emotionally, you play emotionally. That automatically to me speaks to cinema. So forget about commercial cinema. So do you see a time where, because this song is now out on YouTube with no video, so we've never talked about this before. Do you hope to marry some of your songs with video? Maybe that's a better way of
music video. Oh, that's different than like soundtrack and film.
Right. I'm going to a different subject now, but still.
I think it would be cool. It's the kind of thing that I would only do if I had a vision for it, or if someone could convince me of a vision for it. I think there's definitely a song. I definitely think that, it's not like, I I'm not the kind of guy who's looking to put a camera in my face. Like
no,
often,
I don't mean that. I mean, so your explanation of moving somebody, right? Because now my mind goes.
This song specifically,
Yeah, this song specifically, I can see. And by the way, it doesn't have to be the whole song. It could be 35 seconds of this intense scene.
No, it definitely could be.
But that's me. That's kind of my. That I'd be dying to do that. You know.
I do think this song could have a music video for sure.
Okay.
It's the kind of thing that like, I wouldn't go out. Unless I had a vision, then I would go try to shop it around and be like, hey, can you make this video?
Right.
But I don't have a specific vision. I kind of do. I actually originally wanted the album artwork to maybe me be on a stage or something because of this theatricality and this intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this kind of like grandiosity that, could be... it's funny. We're talking about movies. Actually, a distinct image comes to mind. If there's the great Steve Jobs biopic that Aaron Sorkin did the screenplay of, not the one that was where it takes place before 3 of his major Apple releases.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in 3 acts, the movie, and one of them is in an opera theater in L.A. And the music is incredibly dramatic, and the visuals are incredibly this empty theater and whatnot. And that's kind of this song a little bit.
Yeah.
But. And so I know I basically just contrasted myself. I said, "Oh, I don't have a vision for it," and then I just said a vision. But basically, what I'm trying to
I think it's just a matter of one day putting it together.
It would have to take someone that just be like, "Hear me out. What if this happened?"
Sure.
And then I would hear it out. It's not something I go out of my way to do, but I'm sure it would be kind of really cool to have something.
So
like
let
that.
me go a step beyond this.
Yeah.
In your higher education, your TA, and what you're doing with music education, with your master's. Do you study licensing and things like that?
No,
Is
not
this
at all.
something? Okay, so
Well,
the business of music is no part of what you're now teaching or.
So yeah, I basically teach music theory. I'm not a teacher. I don't like teaching. I like teaching my undergrad students. Teaching in a college is very different than teaching public school. I kind of don't like teaching in the public schools at all, but much power to people who do teach in a public school. But anyway, so sorry, after that, but do I teach music business? No, not at all. It's only really essentially music theory stuff. But do I learn that? Well, some of it, yes, kind of. Because for classical composition, there's certain things you learn about, like, eventually, like publishing, eventually that's a conversation that happens, and putting yourself out there. Like, that's naturally a part of kind of any music program, because, like, in this, like, world where you have to kind of, like, self-manage yourself, like, it's definitely not, it's maybe, if anything, I don't know, it's my first semester at Stony Brook, but I would guess it would be 10% of the conversations throughout the whole
even
2
just
years.
the concept of protecting yourself. Do you copyright your songs?
Yeah, those are
great.
Well, yeah, actually, only one of them's. I think "You Ought to Live on Main Street's officially copywritten. Are the other ones copywritten? Maybe. I don't know. Shouldn't I know this stuff? I don't have time to think about any of this stuff. I should know about it, but I think they're I have no idea.
Okay.
But I know "You Ought to Live on Main Street" is definitely copywritten.
Cool.
I know that one is. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cole, you've been out of Potsdam how long now?
I graduated in 2023.
Wow. So coming up on 2
years. A year, yeah.
Some of the singers you had in the summer when we did the Port Palooza show.
Yeah.
They were just perfect backup singers.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. So you obviously keep in touch with people from college, musicians and whatnot. Anything on the horizon with them, or do you sort of bring them in and out as you see fit?
So yeah, the girls you were mentioning are great friends of mine, and we've worked together in undergrad, and they're all teachers, and they're great teachers. They have the teaching, the knack for teaching I don't have, and I love that, hearing about their lives and that. But what they tell me though is that because they teach and they're so busy, that they like to work with me because it gives them an avenue to use their great voices. So we've done a lot of live collaborations and such with that. And then the other musicians too. I'm in a band called Arbutus and Vines, and that's also made up of 3 other teachers and me, and they are extremely busy. We all live in different parts of the state now. And so we do have an album recorded, and it's being worked on, and it'll be released sometime next year, which is really exciting. But we still play, and we're close. And so, I met some amazing musicians at Crane, really. And yeah, I try to keep those friendships and collaborations going because they're great.
Keeping it alive.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few times that you don't necessarily like teaching. Is that because you feel no. This is a big thing because
I didn't think I was going to mention that in the end, but yeah.
No, I mean, is it because you feel you don't have the patience, or is it because your mind is moving beyond? I'm just being honest. I don't have the patience to teach. Yeah. My wife often says, "You know how to do that? Why aren't you teaching me?" I got other shit to do.
I think that's part of it. Maybe it's that I'm not moving their minds. No, I'm kidding. That's a bad joke. No. No. Okay, actually,
he's a control freak, is what he's saying.
No, actually, all of my complaints about teaching. That being said, I've had some of my favorite human experiences teaching. Like the part I love about teaching is the connecting with people and working with a group of people is really and I've taught kids and kids are great, So, I mean, some of it's patience, but I think a lot of it is the biggest thing for me is that it's just not my identity. Like, I'll probably be teaching in my life to some extent or just working with people. I like collaborating and doing things with people, like being in bands and whatnot, or even, maybe that involves assisting. I'd like to conduct. I like to be a conductor, and that is teaching kind of because you might be teaching an ensemble how to sculpt a piece or whatever. I love that kind of stuff. But the teaching people like rudimentary things like here's what a quarter note is and whatnot, it's just not my bread and butter. But at the same time, it's important. But you know what it is? And that's what it is. The big thing is that because I'm a composer and a songwriter and
it just trumps it. Yeah. It's where you want to be. You want to be here.
Yeah.
You'll do this, but you love this more.
I want to. Yeah. There's so much music I have to make.
Right.
There's just so much
Not
I have
enough
to
time.
do. And that's how I want to reach people is by giving them an emotional experience to be a part of. That's how I feel like I can make more of a difference.
So what he's really saying is you're letting the music speak. That's what's really the music itself is teaching. So I want to mention your dad, Andy, good friend of mine, and I want to say that whether you know it or not, you're both doing amazing teaching by storytelling. The great thing about the show, actually every show I've ever been a part of or seen, or it's the storytelling that I think more artists need. It's amazing to me. You'll go see like a major show, and they won't break to just say hello to the audience, how are you, and this is why. You don't need much, 30, 40 seconds, and you guys always make a point of giving the background of what you're about to perform or post show or whatever. That makes all the difference.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And to me, you've taught so much, and I mean the family has taught so much in your performing.
Wow, thank you.
So maybe it's already happening.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I like to introduce people to things. I mean, I'm a total nerd. I listen to music all the time, and because I love history, I'm a bit of a music history guy, and so I like to play songs people know because that's fun and people sing along or whatever. But I really like saying, hey, I'm playing this song that you might have not heard before. I mean, it could be my song, but a lot, if I'm covering something. And I love that because, and I think my dad and my sister share a similar sentiment. We like to bring something new. And it's just what we like to do,
Excellent. Any more surprises you can impart upon us for the December 14th show? I know you said you had a new song. That you'll be
new song,
something written by you guys, right?
Well, all I could say is that the show is always a big extravaganza of some kind. We have guests. Paul Braille usually does the lights, and it's amazing. Yep. I think we're gonna have a choir for a song, so it's you'll be sure to have a very nice evening out, and come say hi, come to the show.
December 14th, right here in Port Jefferson Village. I'll be there. It's going to be great. I'm going to outro us with your song in entirety.
Thank you.
Please stay on, guys. Listen to this song. We'll point you to the YouTube version of this as well, if you don't mind. That would be great, right?
And you could stream it, too. Apple Music, Spotify. So wherever you stream music, check it out.
That'll be our next. We're going to talk about that next time. We'll have a whole other podcast on how people listen to music. And maybe it'll change by the time we get together again. Thank you, brother. Great seeing you.
Love you, man.
I know you got to go. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're going to outro this interview with the entire song. I want to remind everybody again, please come December 14th, First United Methodist Church, 7:30. Check online. We'll see you there. You won't be sorry. Thanks again, Cole.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Appreciate it.
I wasn't moving your mind. I wasn't I didn't notice you were looking behind. I wasn't moving, I wasn't soothing your mind. I wasn't looking for the right signs. I wasn't moving, looking between all the lines. I wasn't moving, I wasn't grooving your mind. I wasn't moving, I wasn't soothing your mind. You didn't get it, you would forget it instead. I wasn't getting ahead. I wasn't moving, I wasn't grooving your mind. I wasn't soothing the time. I wasn't pushing your life. I wasn't sculpting, I wasn't